Oh, all right, so good morning. We are going to do a backbending class today with the theme of the week for all my classes. We're mostly going to focus on opening the chest and shoulders for this group and apply it to a couple standing poses. And it does feel really good once you get the openness again across the chest, and you get the upper back more open, you get the neck released, and the shoulders in a happier position. So I always love the effect of these practices. They also can increase your mood. They can lift your spirits. Backbends are known to be uplifting and energizing. So kind of good for a cloudy, dreary day, which I'm not complaining about, but it's a nice way to kind of pick up the energy if you feel a little bit sluggish on these kind of days. So we're going to start seated and just kind of coming into a more centered state of mind. We know the mind likes to time travel, so just giving ourselves a chance to connect with where we are, what we're doing, let the mind arrive into the body. So giving yourself a chance to use your own effort to sit up tall, so come away from the chair, back, and just take a moment to pull the flesh out from your sitting bones, kind of moving it diagonally back towards kind of the buttock and hip area. And you might actually feel a little bit more spread out once you do that. I have a teacher that said, spread your abundance, which is a nice way to put it. So you just feel a little more planted on the chair. And then putting your hands in a position so that your shoulders can align above your hips. And just take a moment to rock back and forth on your sitting bones, just kind of establishing the centers of the sitting bones. We do have so many habits in the body, so just kind of, always kind of making inquiry into the body and not just kind of living out of habit or conditioning is a big piece of what we do in yoga. Once you find the centers of the sitting bones, you can kind of arrange your torso and feel the alignment that comes, feel an alignment of the shoulders with the hips. Using your shoulder blades as a way to support the chest from the back towards the front. Just kind of bringing the shoulder blades in. And then you can join your hands together in front of your heart. Close your eyes. And if it takes you out of a feeling of presence to close your eyes, just lower your gaze. And then begin to just drop in with your attention. So you're just watching. In yoga, we're more about watching and observing than we are about dictating or directing. So just kind of noticing what's going on today. We have a physical body, we have emotions, we have mental state, we have energy, we have all these different layers that we're kind of always working with. Just getting a really more of a clear picture. The best way to practice yoga is to really honor where you are with acceptance. And that word is interesting because there's Eckhart Tolle puts out 3 portals to presence. One is breath attention, one is body awareness or sensation awareness. And the third is kind of a departure from those 2. It's radical acceptance. So when we notice how we are, the second piece to that is not pushing it away or not gravitating towards it, but just acknowledging and accepting that. And then as you're ready, bow towards your own heart. Let your hands release down to your thighs. And when you're ready, lift your head. Let your eyes gently open. And welcome. Okay, so we're going to do a lot, like I said, of focus with chest, shoulders, neck, upper back. But I do want to get into the 6 actions of the spine first, just to make sure the spine is well mobilized, because it is our central energy channel after all. So we'll come into, let's come into a false clap for the flexion and extension of the spine. So just taking your arms out to the sides, and you don't have to be horizontal with the floor. You can be lower if your shoulders bother you here. Let your wrists come down below the shoulder line. Do try to straighten your arms completely. And on an in-breath, you'll just move the wrists back and the shoulder blades move into the chest to help you lift the chest, look slightly up. This is in-breath. And then exhale, contract your navel, drop your chin to your chest, trying to imagine the forehead moving toward the pubic bone. This is our forward bending. Inhale to open. And we all breathe at a different rate. We're never trying to be a synchronized team of yoga practitioners. So just make sure you're really abiding by the flow of your breathing here. You're forward bending as long as you're exhaling. You're back bending as long as you're inhaling. And there's no rush. So it's not about repetition. It's really about quality over quantity. And take these actions of the spine to your deepest. So really working right at your edge. Some of us, we tend to kind of learn a lot about ourselves in yoga. Some of us kind of hover in an underwhelmed physical state. Some of us gravitate towards a more overwhelmed physical state. So you start to understand where you tend to kind of practice, and then you challenge that. So if you're an overdoer, you have to kind of taper back on your effort. And if you're an underdoer, you have to push yourself a little bit. I tend to be, but just so you know, I'm an underdoer. So I have to push myself to do more because I tend to be a little more complacent. So that's my work. And let's just do one more here. And then go ahead and bring yourself into a neutral spine. We'll do lateral movement here. Let's move with every breath. So raising the right arm, you can hold the chair with your left hand. Inhale here on your exhale, extending to the left, but keeping the sitting bone weight balanced. You're going to inhale and come back out of it. Lower the right hand. Good. Inhale, raise that left arm. Exhale, extend. So moving into that lateral movement on the exhale, you can inhale out of it. Exhale the arm down. Inhale to raise the arm. Exhale. Inhale to come up. Keep going. And every time you repeat this, our body tends to do really well with repetition and re-entry. So every time you repeat this, you might have just a little millimeter more lateral movement. You might not, so don't have certain expectations and requirements, but do notice if you just kind of feel like your spine's getting a little more mobilized, a little bit more, what's a good word for it? Not sure. Just going into it deeper. Let's do a couple more, so one more to each side. And again, really try to stay with your breathing. Let our breath guide us in the practice, not the mind. Good. Last but not least, we will twist. So once you're back with both arms down, you can inhale and raise both arms, and we'll turn to the right. So your left hand crosses the body, comes to the outer opposite thigh. Your right hand props right behind you, squeezing out one breath. And then inhale, coming back to center. You don't have to fully raise the arms, just so you know, if you're working with some shoulder issues. Modify your arms, goalpost arms, letter V arms. Because we're moving quickly with these, don't worry about the head turning unless you can include that piece easily. Don't worry about turning the head. And let's finish up here, taking one more twist to either side. And when you're ready, you can inhale both arms, come back to center, and exhale, Release your arms down. Good. So we'll do neck and shoulders first. You could sit back if you need a little bit more support. We're going to be lowering our chin to our chest, but not collapsing the chest. So keep your chest also finding your chin. Hands are resting comfortably. On an inhale, just roll your ear to one shoulder, and exhale, come back to center. So follow the breath. When you're ready to breathe in, roll your head in the other direction and back to center. So we're inhaling to the side, exhaling to center. And again, you might notice changes with repetitions. You also might not notice much changing. It's okay either way, but always continue to just notice. And if there's a lot of sensation here, you might do better with a limited range of motion. So not pushing yourself beyond your edge, just really working in a gentle way. I personally have a lot going on here when I do this. It's interesting to me. And when you come back to center, lift your head. And now we're going to do shoulder rotations. Whenever your head is back up, we're going to work from front to back, kind of in a forward circle. So what we're going to do is rough out a square shape. Lift your shoulders straight up, scrunching the shoulders, push them forward, pull them down, slide them back. So you have this roughed out square shape. You're kind of finding your perimeter for a range of motion. Just kind of mapping out this range of motion. Now start to smooth out those edges so that your movement becomes more circular and more smooth. So rather than a square, you kind of have maybe an oval or an ellipse or a circle, but you're just kind of finding a more smooth circular pattern. And the shoulders, of course, have a movement pattern, but also notice your shoulder blades having a movement pattern as well. When you come back to center, just come into a neutral position with the shoulders, and we're going to go in the other direction. So you're going to lift your shoulders straight up, push them straight back, pull them down, and slide them forward. You might do that twice. You might just need to do it once, but then begin to make it more smooth and circular, kind of sticking with that range of motion. And what your objective really is the smoothness. So you might need to make it slower. You might need to make it smaller to find the smoothness, to maintain the smoothness. The shoulder blades are really gliding around the back body nicely. They're massaging your back body. This is a great way to do self-massage. And the next time you feel your shoulders are back and down, you can leave them there and just kind of drop them. Let go of effort there in the shoulders. And now we're going to work with a strap because we're going to do our cow pose arms, which is great preparation for some of the work we're going to do today to open the chest. And we're going to revolve a couple poses. So we're going to work with a strap, and anything will work. If you don't have this actual yoga strap, you can use something, but somebody, I think it was Karen, showed me two options, and elastic things that are stretchy aren't as good because we want resistance, and the stretch kind of lets us get out of there a little bit too easy. So we want something that doesn't really stretch. That being said, if it's all you have, it's better than nothing. So we're going to raise the right arm with the strap in hand, and you're going to internally rotate your shoulder, which will help your palm turn backwards. So there you go, Linda. I saw your other arm up. So you're feeling this internal shoulder rotation. Your palm is facing backwards. We're going to keep that, and we're going to bring our hand onto our mid upper back kind of area, the dorsal spine, which lives between the shoulder blades. So now what you want to do is use your free hand to press down on your right elbow, and that's going to help you drop that right hand a little bit lower. And you're also keeping that hand as low as you've gotten it. You're going to take your hand, your left hand, and you're going to rotate the upper right arm from the outer arm in. So you're actually manipulating the flesh, which gives a little imprint of motion, which helps us keep good actions going on here. Of course, when you take your hand away, you'll lose some of it, but you won't lose all of it. So that's the piece, is that we want just a little imprint. So keep as much of that as you can, your elbow on top of your shoulder. We're going to extend that left arm out now, your thumb down, your knuckles forward, and then see if you can grab that strap as close to your other hand as you can. And you're going to work the hands toward each other. And then once your hands are as close as they're going to be today, keep that resistance going on between the hands. So this is where we are glad we don't have stretch, because then we would be able to kind of distort what we're doing. Elbow tips back, which helps shoulder blades move forward. In yoga, we work with opposition a lot. Elbow tips go back, something has to go forward. Feel the shoulder blades move in. And now anytime we open the chest, there is potential for us to push our skull forward. It's just something that happens referentially in the body. So keeping an idea or an image of your spine moving up through the core of your skull. So for a lot of us, that helps align. Another way to help align is to close your eyes and bring your face toward the back of the head, because it's a small adjustment, not a gross movement that needs to happen here. So moving the face toward the back of the head is usually just enough of a directive to get us into alignment. So lastly, just taking a few breaths, trying to resist your elbows apart from each other and both of them back. Wonderful. Go ahead and gently soften out. You can rest your arms, put your strap on your thighs. You might need to do something to recover, or free up some blood flow in your arm, or just kind of do the needful in your body. And then we'll prepare for a second side. So we'll take the strap in left hand. We're rotating at the shoulders. We're getting internal shoulder rotation. You should feel that your knuckles face forward, your palm faces back. And then attempting to keep your elbow above your shoulder as best you can with whatever you're working with. You're going to bend at the elbow, bringing your hand near the between shoulder blade region. Use your free hand to press down on the elbow to drop that hand into a little bit of a lower position. And also keeping that low position, just winding the arm from the outer arm in. You're rotating the arm. It's helping you broaden the shoulder, and it's helping you narrow the elbow. So it's doing both. While keeping as much of that as you can, extending right arm out. And then see if you can really climb up that strap as close as you're going to get. Once you have the closeness that you're going to get, then move the elbow tips back. This puts our shoulders into external rotation, puts our shoulder blades forward. Make sure the skull is where it needs to be. You're not dragging yourself around with your eyeballs or your face. Maybe close the eyes. Maybe think about the spine moving up through the core of the skull. Find and balance over your sitting bones. Another thing that happens when we work with opening chest is we push into the abdomen and we shorten the low back. So that's a distortion. We don't want it. So navel in, tailbone tucked, centers of the sitting bones are weight bearing. Couple deep breaths, resisting elbows apart, taking both elbow tips back, full body awareness. Wonderful. Now go ahead and release. We'll use the strap later. We don't need it anymore right now, so you just set it aside. We're going to come into our other, there's so many animals in yoga, but now we're going to come into eagle. We just did cow. And we're going to stack the elbows. So let's take our right elbow over our left elbow. Modified would be to grab your shoulders here and just lift the elbows. And kind of classical full position is to have right hand I always get confused which arm is which. Have left fingers find right palm here. And then we're opening the upper back. So you're going to be able to access that by lifting elbows slightly, whatever you can, whatever range of motion you have, but not at the cost of your chest collapsing. So we want to have our cake and eat it too here. We want to have an upper open back that's open. And we also want to have a chest that's broad, not collapsed. So one way to do that is to keep your shoulders moving back, not forward, to keep your shoulder blades moving in. And remember the potential for the head to float forward here. So again, maybe close the eyes, maybe imagine the face moving toward the back of the head. Maybe, imagining the spine moving up to the core of the skull. There's lots of ways to align the skull. Let's just take 3 more breaths, and each time you breathe in, feel the broadening of the upper back, the expansion, which is our term for horizontal space in the body. Expansion. And even under the shoulder blades, we get little, I call them cobwebs. We get little stuck energy under there. So spreading under the scapula and just bringing the breath there. And after the last inhale here, you can exhale and float the elbows down. Unwrap your arms nice and wide. And then we'll just repeat other side. So you're stacking left elbow over right. Again, you can go to shoulders here and lift elbows if you need to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have your right fingers find your left palm, which you may no longer recognize as left and right. It's a little bit of a wire crossing in the brain. And then you just play with elbows lifting, chest spreading, upper back spreading, the skull staying aligned, and working right at your edge, which you might have to push yourself a little bit, you might have to back off a little bit based on your personality, really, what you tend to do. I'm more of a Winnie the Pooh than a Tigger. So I have to always just push myself a little more. And if you're a Tigger, you have to just acknowledge that and maybe be a little friendlier with your approach. Not that Tigger isn't friendly, but he's quite ambitious, let's say. And go ahead and lower your elbows. Unwrap your arms, maybe spread the arms, do what kind of counters that for you. So releasing the body in a certain way. Good. All right. So we're gonna, I forgot that we are gonna use the strap one more time here. So find your strap. We're doing, I call it a half dome. We kind of work a range of motion in a little half dome above the head. So your arms are in, your strap is in your hands. Your arms are working overhead. So remember, you can modify this if you need to, but otherwise have a straight arm. We want the arms wider than the shoulders here. So don't attempt to have parallel arms. And this is similar to false clap, where you work a little bit with flexion and extension in your spine as well. So your spine will move that way. Inhale, you're going to take your hands back, which helps your shoulders press in toward the chest. So you'll look up. And then exhale, and you'll bring like a half dome over your head so that your arms become level with the floor in front of you. Okay, really resist the hands apart the whole time. That's a piece of this. So keep pulling your hands apart without actually letting them move. We're just kind of working the pectoralis muscles, we're working the chest. We're getting range of motion here, which is very lubricating for the joints. And we'll do 3 more complete half domes, whatever you've got. Last one. Wonderful. Go ahead and relax out of there. And this time, I promise, strap aside. Okay, before we stand up, we're going to do a revolving head to knee pose. So this is classically a seated pose, but we're going to revolve a chair seated version of it. So we're going to start with our left forearm resting on our left thigh. And we don't just want it to sit there. We want to actively press down there. In yoga, there's a saying, rooting to rise. So the only way we're going to get any rising, rotating action is if we root down here through this pressing down forearm. And then you're going to take your right hand to the back of your right head, the right side of your head. There's an imbalance in sitting bone weight here. So do your best to draw weight back to your right sitting bone. Pressing into left forearm is going to help you free up enough space to rotate. So you're going to press that forearm into your thigh you're attempting to have your sternum, if it had eyeballs, look up at the ceiling. You take your own eyeballs up there too, which will direct your spine. And here, if you are feeling pinching or collapsing, you can come out of it for a second. If you're feeling any kind of discomfort here in the left side body, it's a clue that you need more height under your arm. So we don't want to, I like to say, rob Peter to pay Paul. We don't want to shut down one side of the body just to get spacious on the other. We want to somehow keep a sense of feeling of spaciousness on the left side body. So if you need a little more height under that forearm, that left forearm, you might want to put it there so that you don't spend the whole pose in agony that you're feeling horrible, because then the pose won't really do anything. So I just put one there for myself. I'm going to see if that changes things. Of course it does. It helps me feel more spacious to the left side body. I'm taking my right elbow tip back, which I know helps my right shoulder blade move into the chest, which is going to help it look at the ceiling. I'm also pressing my head into my hand. So that's not just a decorative thing we're doing. Press your head into your hand. It'll give you a little more amplification in the pose. Good. And now you're just going to turn and do a very passive child's pose here. So arms on your thighs, rounding your spine, bowing your head, just letting your head hang. Couple deep breaths. So back bends, like I said, they're energizing, they're mood lifting, but they can also up-regulate us if if we go too far with them, we can end up anxious, which that's not anything we want. So we have to balance a back bending practice with forward bends, with nervous system quieting poses like child's pose. And then you should get the good effects without any over up-regulation. Okay, so we're going to try side 2, maybe propping that thigh if you sense you might need a little bit more height, maybe not. We're going to start with the right forearm, kind of near the elbow. It doesn't have to be your whole forearm, just enough that you have a good amount of leverage to help you turn, create enough space to rotate the spine. We don't get anywhere with rotation if we don't have space. Okay, so we'll take the left hand in the back of the head, and then pushing your elbow forearm down into your thigh, use that to help you create the space to turn the whole torso. Really nice, big, juicy twist to the left. Do your best to restore some weight to your left sitting bone. Keep taking the left elbow tip back, which brings the left scapula forward. Press your head into your hand. Maybe help the spine out with a little bit of a shift in your line of vision. If you look up, our spines get a little more buoyant, a little more energized. And imagine the flesh of the right side body moving around, rotating toward the left, revolving. And then come to the top of the inhale, and then exhale, gently come back to center. And again, find a very restful child's pose. You can always dangle the arms if that feels better. You can do a more modified arms propped on thighs position. Just let your head be heavy. And just running your attention from your brainstem all the way down to the tip of the tailbone. And as you feel ready, you'll start to sit back up, and we're going to stand up for a little bit. I have to adjust my camera here. So we're going to be facing the chair seat. We still don't have a head. Here we go. And you're going to set yourself up for your standing chair version of downward facing dog. So this is the torso taking on an angle, the legs remaining vertical. The feet are hip distance apart. So bring your legs right underneath you. Is it Nora today? Yeah, okay. So vertical legs. Roll your inner knees back And remember, gravity is working against the back body here, so we have to resist that a little bit. Bring your front body into your back body so we don't collapse the back, we don't sag into the abdomen. Scoop your belly, broaden it toward your back body. Lengthen the hips away from the shoulders. And then just rolling your right buttocks slightly farther back, letting your hips swivel to extend the right side body. And then gently shifting to pressing the left buttock farther back to elongate the right side body, left side body. And then bring your buttocks back to level position. And now we're going to walk ourselves toward the chair a little bit so that we can place our forearms down. So you might have to elevate the height of the chair seat with something like a blanket or a book or blocks. If it feels really too low or not comfortable to have your elbows right under your shoulders, your forearms on the chair seat. So you might have to adjust to make the props work for you. The props are working for us, we're not working for them. And then you're going to keep your legs vertical. I sometimes cross my forearms or put one in front of the other so that I have my hands grabbing my arms or elbows. And what we're going to try to do is let the head come down. And you're going to attempt to let every exhale and gravity sink your shoulder blades toward your chest. So this is a version of a pose called Anatasana, which means heart chakra pose. So we're tapping into the space near the heart, which is really where we're targeting today, the sternum area, the upper back. And we're attempting to make that region of the upper back more concave. Over time, with aging, we get rounded in the upper back. So this is a really healthy thing to do to restore balance to the skeleton and the changes that occur in the body over time. And it is helpful if you can get the head to rest either on your own arms or hands. We'll spend 5 more exhales here. If your legs are not comfortable straight, feel free to do a little bend in the knees. And if you can see on my body, I have a valley between my shoulders and my hips. So over time, it starts as a peak for most of us. We're pretty rounded up there. Over time, we want to see more of a valley happening. A little bit of an opening in the chest is going to help you do that. And now we're going to inhale and slowly come out of that pose. So you want to take it slow because you might have gone pretty deep and you don't know it until you're getting out of there. And so go slowly and gently. And we'll do a series of poses now facing this chair seat, but I want you to, if you're working with the mat, hopefully by now you are, bring the chair to the top of the mat so you have the length of the mat running behind you, because we're going to step the right foot forward and the left leg back. And this is a sequence we've done before. So I'll remind us of all the cues here. The right foot toes are just pointing straight ahead. The left foot toes are turned slightly out, not a big turnout. So your right toe is 60 to 80 degrees. Sorry, I meant to say left. And your right foot is 90 degrees forward. And your feet are hip distance wide, even though they're not beneath your hips or in line with your hips. And take a moment to rotate your left hip forward and right hip back. So imagine your hips are headlights, you want them even. Firm your legs, meaning they're straight, and the muscles are kind of gripping onto the bones. You're contracting the muscles of your legs. This is effort. And then we want to start with a concave or flat lumbar spine. So your arms should be kind of pillars in line with your shoulders. You can imagine your lower back is level. You can touch it if you need to. And then we're going to align our torso with our right leg. So you're just going to steer yourself a little to the right. You might have to adjust the chair. We want the breastbone really kind of lined up well with the right leg. And then you're going to come lower. So you might come to your forearms again. You might just bend your elbows. It depends what the body is telling you. And let your head hang. This is the name of the pose is intense side stretching pose. We're going to transition to a triangle pose now. So you want to return to your long supportive arms. We have to adjust our feet slightly because triangle pose is not a medial working pose, it's a lateral pose. So we're going to step the left foot into the same line as the right foot. So you're stepping it over a little bit and you're turning the toes out farther for this one. So the left toe should be now 15 to 45 degree turn out. We want to put our right hand in line with the right leg and our left hand to the left hip. So you can feel the work of the chest, which wants to kind of cave in and collapse to the floor. It's the same work we've been doing today, using the shoulder blades to move in to help the chest turn not only to the left, but eventually slightly up. So just to kind of mimic what we've been doing, take your left hand to the back of the head, take your left elbow tip back, and notice how it brings the left scapula into the chest to help you open the chest. Come to the top of the next inhale, and then on an exhale, gently turn back toward your chair, bring your left hand down, and pivot that left foot back to where you were just a pose ago. So you're back wider now, the feet are not in line anymore, and you have more of a, you have less turnout on the toes with the left foot. Now make sure the left wrist is in line with the left shoulder because we're coming into revolving triangle. Okay, squeeze your hips together like you have a big belt around them. And then you're going to gently transfer weight to your left hand so that right hand comes onto the hip. We're still working with the elbow, so bringing your right elbow toward the left edge of your mat. You're taking the elbow tip back to help you move the shoulder blade into the chest. You're helping your chest turn to the right. You guys look really good. Remember, you should have one beautiful line of energy from your tailbone out through the top of your head. Keep revolving your trunk from left side to right, shining your chest to the right and slightly up. You might shift your eyes up to help you. And don't let your right hip push out. Pull your right hip toward midline. You'll be more stable. Come to the top. Actually, let's go to the end of an exhale to squeeze out that nice deep twist. And then you're inhaling back to facing your chair. And then go ahead and step the feet together. And just come up for a couple moments. You'll put yourself in your mountain pose, standing upright, spaciously, symmetrically, in alignment. Second toes should be in alignment with your heels. Adjust your shoulders back. Remember those shoulder rolls we did where the shoulders arrive back and down. Imagine your shoulder blades sliding into your back pockets. Turn your palms to face forward, which encourages the upper arms to be in the correct action. And once you've gotten that upper arm action, see if you can keep it as you realign your palms to face your thighs. Your skull is right above your spine. And then really pressing your feet into the earth. Imagine you're lifting your pelvic bowl. Imagine you're lifting your whole rib cage, and imagine you're lifting your skull slightly further from the floor. And remember, rooting to rise. So by pressing the feet into the floor, we can maybe create this effect of lightness in the pelvis, rib cage, skull. And go ahead and release it all, let all that effort go. Shake your legs out, open your eyes. And we'll do those same 3 poses now with the left foot forward. So we're going to be facing the chair seat. Your left foot is under the chair, and your right foot will step back. The feet are hip width. You have a little turnout on the right toes, and you're adjusting your hips. So we're rolling right hip forward, left hip back so that they become level. Remember, we don't want our pelvis to rotate. We want a really level pelvis. Your arms are pillars in line with your shoulders. And we're looking for concave or flat lumbar, not rounded. Both legs are firm and active. They're straight. You're going to align your sternum with your left leg. So you might have to move your chair. Cut the outer left hip back. Take a nice big inhale. And on your exhale, try to extend or drape your torso toward the left leg. You might bend elbows, you might come onto your forearms. And try to make your head surrender. So the weight of the head is it's supportive to the spine in this break from gravity. It's dangling from the spine like a bowling ball, giving your spine a break from its normal orientation to gravity. And try to be where you are with each breath. If your mind is wandering, it's a clue that you're over or underwhelmed. And usually if we start to learn ourselves, we know where we tend to hang out. And if your mind is present, it's a really good sign that you're in very good position for yourself. Just taking a couple more generous exhales here, following those breaths out. And when you do finish the next one, you can use an in-breath to come back to your nice long supportive arms. We'll be adjusting the stance for triangle pose. You'll step your right foot to intersect the right arch with the left heel. You'll take a little bit more of a significant turnout with those toes. And you're going to place your left hand so it's lining up with your left leg, and it's also left wrist beneath left shoulder. Okay, right hand to the right hip. Pushing into your chair to root down into the chair. Start to rotate your chest to point to the left for triangle pose. These look good. And then if you're able to, you're going to take right hand to the back of the head, pressing your head into your fingertips to drive the elbow tip back to move the right scapula into the chest for support. Keep winding your trunk from left to right. Keep your legs firm. And connect the dots from the tailbone to the top of the head. So you have a consistent stream of energy. In other words, don't let your crown dangle. Lengthen out to the top of the head. Come to the top of an in-breath. And then exhale, revolving back to facing the chair. You'll turn those right toes slightly back in and step out a little wider so you're no longer on a balance beam. Your hips are back to squeezing together to pointing toward the short edge of the mat. You're going to stay down on your right hand and start to transfer the left hand to the left hip. So you have a tripod you're working with here. You have your hand and your 2 feet. Press 3 points down firmly to start to create space to revolve your trunk to the left. Notice that you might be pushing out with your left hip. So resist the left hip in toward midline. Connect the dots, brainstem, sorry, not brainstem, tailbone out through the top of your head. Make it one consistent streaming chain of energy. Keep revolving your chest to the left. Taking that left elbow toward the right edge of your mat to help the left shoulder blade move in. Come to the top of an in-breath. Finish an out-breath. Bring out that spine. And then inhale back to face your chair. Hand down. And then help your feet come together. And help yourself stand up. And put yourself back into mountain pose. If you feel wobbly, you can always move the feet out so they're hip distance apart, but still try to line up your second toes with your heels. Firm your legs, imagine the muscles squeezing onto the bones. Put your shoulders in line with your hips, hips in line with your heels. You might need to do that little assist to help the upper arms. You turn your palms forward, you keep the upper arms, then you let your palms return to facing the thighs. Close your eyes. Really step down into the feet. Imagining roots coming down into the floor beneath the feet. And then see if you can find that lightness of the pelvic bowl, the rib cage, the skull. Shoulders stay relaxing away from the earlobes. Shoulder blades continue to descend down your back. Neutral pelvic tilt. So some of us overarch the lumbar, some of us over round the lumbar. So we all have a different adjustment to make to get the pelvic bowl level, flush to the top with liquid if it were full of liquid, not spilling out the front rim or the back rim. Good. Now go ahead and open the eyes. Shake out. Let it go. So to finish the standing piece, we're going to do a wide standing forward bend, but today we're going to not use a chair unless you need to, unless you feel like you need some kind of a safety net in front of you. This means you're probably not going to go as deep, but I want you to feel this forward bend with the chest staying open. So we're going to go back to that strap. And we're going to hold the strap in our hands with the hands only as wide as the shoulders and with your palms facing forward, your knuckles facing back. And then you're resisting your hands apart. You're pulling them apart. It's helping you get good action in your shoulders, your arms, your chest, your upper back. Step yourself wide. Your big toes should be on the same line. Your toes should not be turning out here, so you want your second toes still lining up with your heels. So we tend to kind of roll out towards the small toes here, so bring some weight to your big toe ball mounds and your inner heels. And then pull your hands toward the floor and help your thumbs move back, your pinkies move forward, which will help you turn the arms the way we want them to turn. Anytime we forward bend, we want the chest to stay in the sunlight. We don't want to collapse the chest. So this is teaching us really good actions here. A big inhale. And on your exhale, leading with your sternum. So the hands are moving kind of in opposition with the trunk and the torso and the chest. So as the chest dips down, the hands are moving up. It's kind of like a seesaw. So the hands should be moving kind of in equal and opposite to the sternum. So again, you might not go to your deepest, fullest here, but I just want you to feel how we come into a forward bend with really good integrity across the chest, the shoulders, upper back. And then on an inhale, you're going to come up. Okay, so this isn't one that you hold a long time and you get to really get quiet in the brain. This is a more active one. And go ahead and heel toe walk your feet closer together. And now you can put your strap aside, I think, for good. And we'll come back to sitting in the chair. Okay. So we're going to do a deeper twist. We did a little bit of a twist before with revolving head to knee pose when we had the forearm on the thigh. We're going to do a twist where we take the hands together. In yoga, this is called prayer position, Namaskarasana, so the namaste position. So what we're going to do is it's combining a forward bend with a twist. For some of us, it's going to be only accessible to take your elbow to the same side, inner knee. And for others, it'll be joining the knees and taking your elbow to the opposite side, outer knee. Okay, so you have either option. Inner knee of the same side leg, the elbow and the knee of the same side of the body, or the outer knee of the opposite side. So you'll notice that I had to adjust my spacing between my feet. So if you're going to do the modified, you have to keep your feet apart. And if you're going to do the deeper, feet and knees have to come together to create enough space to do that. So we're going to be starting with left elbow. And depending on what you're doing, modified would be left inner knee, and not modified would be outer right knee. From either position, so first find your connection of elbow and knee. But from either position, you want your forearms to become one single line. So we start tending to have kind of forearms that are diagonal with each other. Try to put your forearms in one similar line. And then also, the next piece is to breathe your sternum toward your thumbs. Okay, so for some of us, that means just forward, moving the sternum forward. For some of us, it means moving the sternum up. And for some of us, we have to do both, like a letter J. We have to come forward and up. Okay, remember to take your eyes up. It'll help your spine stay more buoyant. And also notice your lighter right buttock, sitting bone. Attempt to restore some weight there. And 5 breaths. Stay for 5 breaths. Twisting, we can really capitalize on the exhales. So really linger, 2 more exhales here. And after this next exhale, once you come to the finish, you're going to inhale into your whatever version of child's pose in your chair. So that could be resting your arms on your thighs. It could be dangling the arms, letting the head dangle. And then we'll prepare for side 2. We'll coming up. And again, you might have to separate your feet if you're going to modify. So this time will be right elbow coming to either inner right knee or outer left knee. If you're going to outer, you're going to have your feet joining. You're going to find your way just into that starting position, kind of creating the general shape. Put your forearms into a single line with each other. And then the work is to every exhale, just letting your sternum come toward your thumbs. So either forward, up, or forward and up. Five good exhalations here. And when you finish up your next exhale, use the inhale to help keep some length to your spine to return to center. We're going to take a wider knee position for a forward bend. So you separate your feet and make sure you have enough of the chair seat underneath you so you feel really nicely supported. And again, you can do a resting your arms on your thigh version with your head hanging. You might free the arms to turn into empty coat sleeves, just kind of dangling down in front of you. If you have your hands on the floor, your shoulders will get a little bit more of a suggestion to surrender if you rest on the backs of your hands. That's just a little tip. Let your head become that same kind of bowling ball of weight to support the decompression of your spine. Every time you exhale, let your spine really enjoy this break from gravity. Anytime you've held a forward bend for any amount of time, significant, beyond a minute usually, just really try to come out slowly. So maybe starting by lifting your head and looking forward, maybe crawling your hands out in front of you, slowly journeying back to an upright seated position. Good. And now we're going to just take the support of the chair. We're going to be finishing just with just a couple minutes in silence, just kind of noticing how we feel after this practice. Make sure your shins are upright. Your knees can be wider than your hips. Your toes can be turned out at this point. So really, we want to be as passive as we can in this chair. We want to be supported by the back. We do want to kind of keep the spine upright, so just make sure you're not slouching in your chair. And we want to keep our chin level with the floor. So we don't want to be tilting the chin up or down, just a neutral level chin. Your head should be perfectly supported by the spine, just kind of hovering right on top of the spine. You can close the eyes. It does put you in a little bit more of a receptive state to rest the backs of your hands on your thighs, closer to the groins, so that your shoulders stay back. And even though we're not tilting the chin down, just looking toward your own cheeks to signal your brain to become a bit more passive. And once you've done all that, you're just kind of sitting back in the witness seat. You're just watching and noticing. There's all these things you can notice. Your breathing. You can notice sensations around you, within you. You can notice the mind, the thought waves are maybe fewer and farther between, maybe they aren't. You can notice your own reactions to your thoughts. This is mindfulness. You can notice energy vibrating in the body. Maybe before you felt a little more dull. Maybe you feel a little bit more tingly and alive now. Maybe you don't. And there's also the body still holding some contraction, some effort. So noticing where you're still a little bit gripping in your body. And of course, we do need a little effort to stay seated on the chair. But places that aren't required to help you do that, notice if there's still some holding. One of the usual suspects is the face. We tend to have a lot of contracted energy in the face. We tend to wear a little bit of a social mask. So just letting your face release from your hairline all the way down to your chin. Softening your jaw, your tongue, softening your throat, your belly. And Inviting the muscles of your legs to relax away from the bones now. Watching the body breathe by itself. The good news is that we maintain a heightened state of consciousness for hours after practice. The maybe bad news is that we have to reanimate to return to life off the mat. So begin to breathe deeper, begin to maybe invite little movement, wiggling toes, fingers, wrists, ankles, maybe rolling your head from side to side. And then when you're ready, you can just kind of sit away from the chair back and just pausing and bringing the hands together in front of the heart. Taking a moment to acknowledge how you feel now versus an hour ago. One big piece of evidence of a successful practice is that you can access a feeling of gratitude that maybe you couldn't have before as deeply before accessed. So just notice if you can give thanks for anything, for whatever is true in your life. And let's take a deep breath in, just breathing into that, and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Well, beautiful job, everyone. And it's always good to see you. Enjoy this cool weather. And I hope to see you again soon.